Hey everyone, happy Monday. This week we're going to focus on the volume of cylinders, spheres, and cones. And I'm only going to be posting one video this week because this one video will have everything that you need to know on it. So the first thing I'm going to have you or encourage you to do is to pause the video and write down the formulas. The volume of a cylinder is found by taking pi radius squared times height. And when you go ahead and type that into your calculator, when you go ahead and type that into your calculator that you have that we've used all year, you want to type the pi button, put your radius in parentheses, type the x squared button, and put your height in parentheses. Okay. When you go ahead and define the sphere, it's 4/3 pi r cubed. So when you type that in your calculator, you're going to type in 4, ABC 3, the pi button, your radius in parentheses, the caret, and the 3. And then go ahead and define the cone. The volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. So you're going to type 1 ABC 3 pi, put the radius in parentheses, x squared, and then the height. Okay. That being said, I have a picture of your guys' calculator from school. Mine's just green in this case. If you can't find the pi button, I just circled it right there. If you need the caret button, it's right below the pi. And if you need the x squared button, it's right below the caret. So those are the 3 buttons that you're going to need for the different formulas. You're also going to need the ABC button. And everything else is pretty self-explanatory. The left parenthesis and then the right parenthesis. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the problems. If you do not have a calculator, I will show you in example 1 how to use the calculator given to us on Delta Math. Okay. So I already have these pictures drawn for us. I'd encourage you, if you're more of a visual person, to sketch the cylinders, cones, and spheres out so that you see what information you're given. If you don't need to do that, that's totally fine. So in question 1, it says, what is the volume in cubic centimeters of a cylinder with a height of 16 and a base radius of 3? And then you want to round to the nearest tenths place. That might be the hardest part of this assignment. Okay, so I have written here the formula for the volume of a cylinder, and I'm going to just go ahead and take my numbers and plug them into that formula. The pi drops down, there's nothing to plug in for the pi. Radius needs to go in parentheses, and the radius is that half of the length of the circle, so that's my radius. So that's going to be 3 parentheses squared, and the height is going to be how tall the cylinder is, which is 16. Now, if you have the school calculator, go ahead and type that right in the way that it is. And when you do so, you are going to get 452.38933421. Now, the only tricky part is you have to round to the nearest tenths. In order to do that, you're going to look at the second digit after the decimal. If it is 5 or bigger, it's going to bump the number in front of it up 1. So since it is bigger than 5, or 5 or bigger, it's 8. Our final answer is going to be 452.4. You do not need to label it in Delta Math. It labels it for you. All right, example number 2. Stop. I'm going to go back. I am going to copy this formula. If you have your calculator from school, you can skip this part, but if you don't, I'm going to show you how to find the calculator on Delta Math. So this is what your Delta Math screen looks like. If you look in the top right corner, there is a calculator there. That if you press that button, then the calculator at the bottom of my screen pops up. Okay, now let's pretend that you need to type in this formula here. Okay, I'm going to go through it with you, and then it's the same all the time. Okay, so the first thing that you have to hit is the pi button, and I'm going to highlight it. When you hit the pi button's going to pop up just right exactly where I'm typing it on your screen. Okay, now you need to type in parentheses 3. So parentheses, okay, parentheses, 3 parentheses will give us that right there. Okay. The squared button on this calculator is the button I just typed right there, so that gives us the squared, and then once again parentheses, 16 parentheses. Okay, when you type this in, okay, your answer is going to pop up on the right side there. This is where your answer is going to be. A-N-S-W-E-R. Okay, just make sure that you round to the nearest tenth. All right. So let's go back up. Let's look at question number 2. It says, what's the volume of a cylinder with a height of 16 and a base diameter of 6 feet? Now, this is important. Make sure that you note that you're given the diameter, because we don't need the diameter for our formula. We need the radius, and the radius is half of that number. So my radius that I'm going to use for my formula is 3. Okay? And then my height I'm going to need is 16. So let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. The pi drops down, parentheses 3 squared, and then my height is 16. Go ahead and type that into your calculator, and you get the exact same answer from the problem above. Make sure that you round it, the second digit after the decimal. If it's 5 or bigger, it bumps the number right in front of it up 1. So my final answer is 452.4. Okay. All right, let's look at number 3. I did not have this drawn. I apologize for that. The height is 19.9, and the radius is 9.6. Okay. So we want to go ahead and find the volume. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug those 2 numbers in. My radius is given to me, so is my height. Use parentheses. So 1/3 pi, my radius is 9.6 squared, and my height is 19.9. Okay, if you plug that exactly into your calculator, you are going to get 1,920.543554. You want to check for rounding, so look at the second digit past the decimal. If it's 5 or bigger, it bumps the 1 in front of it up, but it is not 5 or bigger, so it keeps it the same. So it's going to be 1,920.5. Okay. Once again, if we just quickly go look how to type this into the calculator for delta math, you might need help with this because when you put in a fraction, you just use the division bar. Okay. So let's see if it'll paste it in there. So if I needed to type 1/3 in my calculator for delta math, I would type in 1 divided by 3, and it would pop up as a fraction 1/3. Okay. However, before moving on at all, you have to type the right arrow. Click that right arrow there so that you can continue typing the formula. So then you would just type in pi, which is right there, and then parentheses 9.6 parentheses x squared, and then so on. Okay. All right, and then the next problem is find the volume of a cylinder where the height is 18.1 and the diameter is 18.7. However, remember, we do not need the diameter. We need the radius. So cut that diameter in half, and I get 9.35 for my formula. So let's go ahead and plug our numbers in. 1/3 pi drops down. My radius I just found was 9.35 squared. My height is 18.1. If you type that into your calculator, you are going to get the following. Oops. See if I can make that bigger. And then you just want to check for rounding. If the second digit past the decimal is 5 or bigger, which it's not, you need to currently leave it the same. So our final answer would be 1,657. You do not need to put the 0.0. You can if you would like. All right, last set of problems. What's the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 8.2 round to the nearest tenth? Okay, once again, I have the diameter, but I don't need it. I need the radius. So let's cut 8.2 in half, so divide that by 2, and I get 4.1. Let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. That 4.1 is going to go in for r. So it's going to be 4/3. Drop the pi down. My radius is 4.1. And I raise it to the 3rd power. Okay. You type that into your calculator. You get 288.6956097. Check for rounding, so look at the second digit past the decimal. If it's 5 or bigger, it's going to bump the number up in front 1, which it is, so my final answer is 288.7. Once again, be very careful when you type this into your calculator. Make sure you use the caret button, and you raise it to the 3rd power, so caret 3. Whereas if you are using delta math, and you have to type in this formula, okay, you would start with 4 divided by 3 and then hit the arrow so that you can continue writing the formula. Okay, you would hit the pi button, parentheses 4.1 parentheses. So I'm going to type that in. So pi parentheses 4.1 parentheses. Now the tricky part is putting in that caret. So that caret is going to be that button that I just pressed there, a to the b, and then you're just going to hit 3 because you're raising it to the 3rd power, and when you do so, the exponent will show up. Okay, once again, your answer is over there. All right, last problem. What is the volume of a hemisphere with a radius of 4.3? Be very careful. A hemisphere is half of a sphere. So when you get your final answer, you're going to have to divide it by 2. All right? So let's go ahead and plug our information in. 4/3 pi. My radius is 4.3. Raise it to the 3rd power. Okay? When you put that in your calculator, you're going to get 333.0381428. But that's for the whole sphere. We only want half the sphere, so we have to divide that number by 2. And when we do so, we get the following. Okay, check for rounding. If the second digit past the decimal is 5 or bigger, it would bump the number in front up 1, but it is not. So my final answer is 166.5. And that's it, guys. So just make sure you take a second, jot the formulas down, write down how to type them in your calculator if you have the calculator at home. And if you don't have the calculator at home, you can still do the assignment. Just watch my tutorials on how to use this calculator.